The ripple effect, most often represented as a pebble being flung into a pond, is something we see constantly in our everyday lives. And with me having covered such fandoms as Attack on Titan, Hetalia, and Tokyo Ghoul, today we're gonna be looking at the fandom that among a select few really did start a deadly ripple effect. Hello everyone, this is the RPG Monger, and welcome to the Fandom Files, the only show where I take you all on a magnificent journey into the deepest, darkest depths of every fandom. And oh boy, Black Butler, a fandom that while may have become more tame in the past 5 years, kind of, used to be synonymous with some less than desirable things. However, before going any further, do remember that these situations do not represent the entire fandom at hand. More often than not, they're just a vocal minority who drown out the hundreds of nice, respectable people. So about the ripple effect I was discussing earlier, just how did the Black Butler fandom somehow cause the issues present in those 3 other fandoms? Well, it all comes down to a certain group of people I'm sure you're all very familiar with. Fujoshis. But not just any kind of fujoshi, no. I'm talking about catastrophic apocalypse fujoshis. Ones that at the time were among the first of their kind to be at such a level of disaster. Though before we dive all the way into that mess, let's first talk about one of the major controversies that has somehow persisted within the fandom to this day. Grell, a very peculiar Grim Reaper who has unfortunately been thrust into a hellish debate not unlike the one that I talked about with Danganronpa as a matter of fact. So here's the rundown. For many years now, the fandom has been in a constant argument over the topic of Grell's gender, as while they're biologically male, in a little pseudo Q&A thing that the author did with the character, they revealed that they do in fact want to be female. Done and done, right? Well, unfortunately not, as since the author also refers to the character with varying pronouns, certain parts of the fandom have practically torn each other apart over arguing about whether Grell truly should be considered transsexual or not. The worst part is that when people don't know about all this information surrounding Grell and use male pronouns for them online, they'll be completely bashed, being called such terms as transphobic. Hell, if you go onto forums like the wiki for Black Butler, you can still witness the infighting. And on Tumblr, well, it's more of a war there. Unfortunately, the way things are looking with this never-ending argument,
a conclusion will never be fucking reached!
But hey, who knows? Maybe with the debate going on for over half of the fandom's lifetime, it could even come to an end soon at this rate. Alright, well with that out of the way, how about we return to the topic of those ever so rabid fujoshis? Because with Black Butler being one of the first fandoms to produce this level of insanely obsessed fujoshis, there really is no peak to their insatiable obsession. For example, in the lifetime of Black Butler's fandom, the ship between Ciel and Sebastian has always been rather dominant, I should say, and to enlighten you a bit here, that's a ship between a 13-year-old boy and a man who's been alive for centuries. That's not just an outlier either, as unfortunately a lot of the popular ships within the fandom do contain some form of either pedophilia or straight up abuse. And when you don't even do as much as ship that said pedophilic or abusive ship, you were the one who ended up being completely torched as a result. Like, you may have thought it was a joke, but people will go as far as to completely bash a character and all who like it just because that said character gets in the way of their ship. In Black Butler's case, it would have to be Lizzie. But honestly, this last bit takes the cake of stupidity, because what originally started as a rumor that the series was originally intended to be yaoi, which of course was spread by those obsessive fujoshis that will do anything for validation to their ships, it ended up becoming so widespread that most people, including me, actually thought that the series was full-blown yaoi before actually watching it, though it doesn't stop there, because with a certain plot twist within the Black Butler manga, many people within the Western fanbase actually sent hate mail to the creator, some even including death threats. I would talk about how stupid this is in detail, but in the Tokyo Ghoul fandom, the same exact thing happened. Honestly, I wouldn't even be surprised if the fans who did this in both fandoms are the exact same people. Though now, it's everyone's favorite segment. It's story time. And while it was a bit harder to find anything notable online, I've actually been having people approach me with their stories, so a shout out to @PeachyAriel for this one. So this person has been in the fandom for 8 whole years. Just to give perspective, that's just about as long as the fandom has even been around for at all. And with them experiencing a combination of both awful and amazing things, it was only a matter of time before they too had an experience of their own. And boy did they. So when they were 15 and had just joined the fandom, they met a girl in high school who had just graduated and was heading off to college. Lo and behold, both of them ended up being into Black Butler, and with our lonesome protagonist not having any friends at the time, finding someone else with similar interests was truly a wonderful occurrence. Though like most good things, it didn't last forever, as with the passage of time, she became increasingly obsessed with Black Butler, and not in a good way. It began with her just wanting our protagonist to get black glasses like William's, as she had red glasses like Grell's, and it only escalates from there. When our protagonist wasn't able to continue the RP between them because they were either at church or hanging out with their little brother, this girl would actually threaten them with such things as suicide if our protagonist wouldn't comply with her demands. The worst part is, this girl also had our protagonist's address and phone number as well, so to say it was frightening would be an understatement. Eventually, the situation got so bad that the girl was taken to the hospital and put on medication. Needless to say, my thoughts go out to the victim in this situation because, wow, to think this was all over Black Butler is a scary thought. But wait, there's more. Now let's take a gander at a little site called DeviantArt, a place that is usually used for people to, you know, post art, but unfortunately is also used for more, well, deviant purposes. And while this does in fact happen with other fandoms, the fangirls explicitly of Black Butler can be quite odd in their actions. For example, with one account of these happenings, there would be a fangirl who would actually attack literally any and all users who would say that they loved Sebastian, acting as if the fictional character actually belonged to her. She would even go as far to proclaim that some Sebastian roleplaying account was her boyfriend, accusing anyone who remotely talked about or to it as quote-unquote stealing her boyfriend. The person giving the account even got harassed by this girl just for drawing Sebastian with their OC. And speaking of OCs, the environment of people who make them within the Black Butler community is especially toxic on its own, with users legitimately arguing over whether Sebastian would love their OC or not. Hell, the creepiest part is that some of these people go as far to exploit those said Sebastian RP accounts to engage in, let's just say, unique acts. Here's the thing though that honestly makes Black Butler's fandom quite different from the rest. While most fandoms have a peak and eventually simmer down or die off, Black Butler has somehow kept up the feat of miraculously coming back to life multiple times, with it still being quite active for how old it is. Of course, while being alive that long will produce a lot of garbage, it's also proven to produce a lot of amazing things and people as well. For example, I've seen people take their devotion to the series so far that they'll actually come up with recipes and even recreations to some of the food that appears in the series. Like, I know that other fandoms do this as well, but holy crap. Some of these recreations are making me hungry just talking about them. The list goes on too, as portions of this fandom can really be positive. But to wrap things up, here is my final take on it all. The Black Butler fandom is truly quite the mixed bag, as on one end you may have small groups of people who actually, and I'm not joking, call the scene where Ciel has a violent asthma attack which in turn causes him to cry and vomit quote-unquote hot yaoi. But you also have the wonderful people who, just as an example, reached out to me explaining how, of course, while the fandom has its bad portions, it also has a plentiful amount of great portions. And if you've ignored everything I've said so far, just listen to this. Please, 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 please Do not let these kind of obsessions define you, because while there's nothing wrong with devoting a ton of time to a series that you like by producing art and contributing to the community in general, when it gets to the point where not only are you making the people around you uncomfortable, but your actions become without reason as a whole, step back, take a look at your actions, and just reconsider how you're going about everything as a whole. If you do just that, the community will become so much better. I'm not gonna lie, these past 2 weeks have been incredible because aside from the contributions in the comments, I've had tons of people voluntarily reach out to me on YouTube, Twitter, and even my email to tell me their particular stories with certain fandoms. And with that all said, I highly encourage that you all do the same, as the amount of stories out there that you all have to tell is truly amazing. And with that in mind, like always, leave your worst stories from the Black Butler fandom in the comments below, and I'll pick my favorite for the next episode of the Fandom Files. And with that, here's my favorite from the MLP episode of the Fandom Files. In 2012, a bunch of hardcore bronies harassed me and my friends because I liked anime. They made videos about me, stalked my profile, spammed me about pony stuff, and told me anime would never live up to MLP. They would follow me around on almost every video I commented on and spam me. Eventually, I blocked them because usually trolling doesn't bother me, and rightfully so. However, that time, I was not only annoyed, I was uncomfortable. Even then, a few made new accounts to continue harassing me. I ignored them and they went away eventually. You know, sometimes people just really need to find better uses of their time. And this honestly goes to all people like this as well. If you persistently harass or insult someone over such petty things as watching anime, then I'm truly sorry because you must lead a pretty sad existence to enjoy persecution like that. And to the person that this was all happening to, not only am I glad that it all stopped happening, but I applaud you for handling it all so well. Now usually at this point, I'd put out a poll on the iCards so you could all vote for the next episode of the Fandom Files. But today, I've already decided what I'm gonna do for the next episode, so instead, I've included a different kind of poll. Please do give it your time of day. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, do subscribe, and today's cool thing of the day is the Black Butler Book of Atlantic. Out of all the Black Butler anime I watched in preparation for this video, this movie in particular stood out massively as compared to the previous arcs. The improvement was astounding in my opinion. Hell, I may even take up catching up via the manga at this rate. So that being said, I'm the RPG Monger, and don't forget that each and every one of you are fantastic.